Alright, Shalom. Before I begin this video, all praise, honor, and glory goes into Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, GMS, rule well and teach well. The elder apostle on down. As well as the sincere salutations to the elder bishops. With you brothers laboring all throughout the four winds of the earth. Alright, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, Barakatam. To you brothers, man. And title of this lesson, the spirit power of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, is possibly leaving NATO. Alright, and who's next? Okay, because the beast, okay, is hating the whore. The beast being NATO and the EU is hating the whore, which is Babylon the Great, aka America. So just going into that, I'm gonna go ahead and play. This is maybe like 2 minutes long. Let's play this quick clip.
American careers. Since 1857, that's been a powerful place to start. It means more hands on deck.
All right, you've been warned. The newest threat to Colorado in soil. They like this working your time.
See this, here it is. You got all these different things taking place, and they talk about worms. Alright, it was showing how an email outlines the options for the U.S. to punish NATO allies. So, the whore is hitting the beast on top of the head, telling the beast, okay, go this way. And the beast is bucking up. It says, punishing NATO allies it believes failed to support U.S. operations in the war with Iran, including suspending Spain from the alliance and reviewing the U.S. position on Britain's claim to the Falkland Islands. The policy options are detailed in a note prepared by Eldridge Colby. It says a top policy advisor who expressed frustration that some allies perceive reluctance or refusal. So they just downright refusing to join in. It says, or refusal to grant the U.S. access, basing in overflight rights, known as ABO for the Iran war, said the official. Says the ABO is just the absolute baseline for NATO, who added that the options were circulating at high levels. It says one option in the email envisions suspending difficult countries. And them turning on the EU, NATO and the EU, eventually they gonna lash out at the whore. It says, President has harshly criticized NATO allies for not sending their navies to help open the Strait of Hormuz. It says he has also declared he is considering withdrawing from the alliance. He said, wouldn't you if you were me? Says in an interview in response to a question about whether the U.S. pulling out of NATO was a possibility. Which either one, whether the U.S. pulls out of NATO or whether NATO, all the NATO countries are trying to pull out, either or, this situation is imploding. It says, but the email does not suggest that the U.S. do so. It also does not propose closing bases in Europe. It says press secretary responded, despite everything that the U.S. has done for our NATO allies, they were not there for us. The War Department will ensure that the President has credible options to ensure that our allies are no longer a paper tiger and instead do their part. Right, because the only boots that they want to put in, put on the ground, they want a war, but they don't want a war against Iran. Right? They want to shoot ammunition, but they don't want to shoot it towards, Iran. They want to shoot missiles towards Babylon the Great, aka America, and that's what they're gonna do. It says, asked whether it is possible to suspend a NATO ally, and NATO officials said that NATO's founding treaty does not foresee any provision for suspension of NATO membership. But that didn't answer the question. Which, if one is to be suspended, then, multiple can be suspended. There's definitely going to be fallout about that. It says the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran has raised serious questions about the future of the 76-year-old bloc and provoked unprecedented concern that the U.S. might not come to the aid of European allies should they be attacked. And all it would take was for something like that to happen, such as Britain or Australia or Canada, for something to happen and then America not join in and now all of a sudden they looking at America crazy. It says Britain, France, and others say that joining the U.S. naval blockade would amount to entering the war, but that they would be willing to help keep the strait open once there was a lasting ceasefire or the conflict ended. So they don't want to get involved in that, man. But the Lord is basically making them. Since the Trump administration officials have stressed that NATO cannot be a one-way street. They have expressed frustration with Spain, where the socialist leadership said it would not allow its bases or airspace to be used to attack Iran. The U.S. has 2 important military bases in Spain. It says the policy options outlined in the email would be intended to send a strong signal to NATO allies with the goal of decreasing the sense of entitlement. So the whore is telling the beast that the beast is entitled. The beast been eating good, right? It says the option to suspend Spain from the alliance would have a limited effect on U.S. military operations, but a significant symbolic impact. Because, okay, who's next? All right, France, Spain, Germany, it's just going to have a domino effect. It says the memo also includes an option to consider reassessing U.S. diplomatic support for long-standing European imperial possessions, such as the Falkland Islands near Argentina. It says that the State Department's website states that the islands are administered by the United Kingdom, but are still claimed by Argentina, whose Libertarian President Javier Milei is a Trump ally. Alright, so now it's just different lands. They going back and forth about different lands. It says Britain and Argentina fought a brief war in 1982 over the islands. 650 Argentine soldiers and 255 British troops died before Argentina surrendered. Sovereignty rests with the UK, and the island's right to self-determination is paramount. It says it's been our consistent position and will remain the case. It says that Trump has repeatedly insulted Starmer, calling him cowardly because of his unwillingness to join the U.S. war with Iran, saying he was no Winston Churchill and describing Britain's aircraft carriers as toys. Alright, so he's taunting everybody. Says there's a lot that has been laid bare by the war with Iran, noting that Iran's longer range missiles cannot hit the U.S. but can reach Europe. So let's get into some precepts. Alright, so this is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, there is none understanding in him. So when these other nations begin to turn, right, when that beast begins to bite back, right, this place is going to be utterly destroyed. Right, this the land of confusion, Babylon the Great, is going to be destroyed, by thermonuclear intercontinental ballistic missiles. It says, "Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau?" So there's no bounce back plan. There's no, all right, let's regroup and try to figure this out. No. Fully being bombarded. Death, destruction, mayhem. Right, chaos, that's what's coming to Babylon the Great. They were influenced by the wine, the philosophy of this place. But now that it's wearing off, it's starting to wear off. All right, and it's making all these other nations mad and upset. All right, and ready to physically attack this place. Together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, at the Lord's judgment. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. So this warfare, this warfare is also a judgment to the other nations as well. Because you're going to have all these different nations down there in the Valley of Decision. Right? Not just Babylon the Great. You're going to have a heavy troop presence. It's going to be a lot of troop movement, a lot of war, a lot of, bodies moving around. It says, "Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision." Yes. We know that the Lord is near. Right? We in the times where we know that the Lord is coming back. We almost there, man. We can feel it. Alright, it says the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. Right? And right now, the voice of the Lord is his prophets, his men. Right? Starting with the elder apostles of Great Millstone on down. It says, "And the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel." So even though there's going to be all this warfare, chaos, mayhem, the Lord is going to save his elect. Right, nothing to worry about for the elect of the nation of Israel. Lord's will we be of the elect. It says, so shall ye know that I am the Lord your power dwelling in Zion, right? So only the Israelites. It says my holy mountain, right? So separate nation. Right, holy means separate, and that mountain goes into a nation of people. So the Lord has made a completely separate nation for himself. The Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, right, and those who may look like the other nations, yet their line goes back to the Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel, right? It says, then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her any more. And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters. And a fountain shall come forth of the house of the Lord, and shall water the valley of Shittim. Egypt shall be a desolation. Yeah, so when all this happens, America gonna be completely destroyed. See, going back, to the beginning of the video, all these other nations are gonna turn against Babylon the Great. All right, it says Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. Yeah, so after 1,000 years, man, we won't even be talking about you. All right, 1,000 years after, all this, when the Lord returns, y'all gonna be rounded up and burned, Oh, and we were just in the book of Obadiah. If we would have went down to the end, it would have spoke on that. It says, for the violence against the children of Judah, yeah, for what you did against the Israelites, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. It says, but Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. Yes, so in the kingdom, the Israelites are going to live forever, man. It says, for I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion. So the Lord is dealing with the elect of the nation of Israel. That's who he is revealing this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to. That's who he's dealing with. That's who he's watching over and protecting and equipping us with this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. The fear of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, man. The Lord is raising us up to the Spirit. The scriptures speak about, great fear fell upon them, that it's seen us rising upon our feet, roughly paraphrasing. So now that we're coming into the understanding of who we are, right? The future of Babylon the Great, aka America, the future of the heathen, right? We know the future of the heathen captivity. We know that the beast is gonna hate the whore and burn her flesh with fire, right? The scriptures show us all that. The scriptures show us the blueprint, right? What's gonna happen next? What's coming up next? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. And that's something we're watching very closely for. Any day now they could have the sea hip. Any day now we could be, dive bombing, into the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. Any day, any moment we could just have as a real heavy build-up. So of course we know that something is to come after that when they have this build-up. When they don't talk about much, something normally happens right after that. So that's being built up. That's something that we are looking at. Right? The scriptures speak about being in that watchtower. Right? So we're in that watchtower. We're watching for prophecy. We're watching for scriptures. We're seeing everything that's going on around us and tying it to the scriptures through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Lord's will we be of the elect. Alright, so with that, Lord's will, you are edified. Barakatah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Once again, double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, GMS, who rule well and teach well and told us the truth, as well as the sincere salutations to the elder bishops, along with your brothers laboring all throughout the four winds of the earth. Alright. Kwam Yashala and Abba Babal. Shalom.